All right, welcome back to my sixth video of my command line series. So before we continue, I want you guys to check out my very first five videos. So my first one, I talk about file manipulations, creating a file, deleting a file, etc., etc. For the second one, I talk about the system. So that's like knowing the users, if you're using a guest user, etc., etc. For the third one, it's the networking side of the command line. So that's knowing stuff like your IP address, your router's IP. And for my fifth video, we learned the compression and archiving side, right? So definitely check out those videos. I'm going to have the links in the description. But for my sixth video, we're going to be going through the file permission sides of things, right? So permissions in computing is very important because permissions is a way of giving access a file or a program access to certain functions in your computer, whether that's modifying the hard drive, whether that's creating a new file, whether that's asking for the web camera, et cetera, right? So files are given permissions, right? So it's very important what you limit the file and who can actually use the file, right? So over here to our left, you can see we have all the commands they're going to be using for the permission side of things, right? So as you can see, we're going to be using mostly chmod. As you can see here, shwon, umask, and chmod again, et cetera, right? So let's get this party started. So I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to put ls and then the L flag. As you see here, I have four different files, right? So over here, we get to see the permissions that the file has. So I created all of these as root, right? And you can even see the data was created up here to the right. So read writable, right? So I'm able to modify these files using, well, pretty much using the root user, which I am right now, right? Who am I? I am root. But you can see it from right here, right? If you want to leave the root user, you press exit, and then bam, your regular user, right? So let's do this. So again, since I'm the regular user, Cali, I'm still able to modify the files, right? So let me do this. Oh, no, 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 wait. Well, sorry about that. So let's change it back to our playground. Playground. We capitalize the G. All right. So as you see here, with the root user, I'm able to modify the files, right? So here, we're going to see the individual stats and permissions of the individual files that we see up here. So stat, and then cool, as you see it here, coolfish.sh. As you know, .sh is the shell extension, right? So shell is the command line here that we're using. So some files will actually use a shell script, and the shell script to install a program, it'll update the operating system, it'll call certain library functions and this, et cetera, right? So it's important that you actually change the permission files on a .sh file because you're going to be downloading a lot of them, especially if you download tools from GitHub, and a lot of them will have the .sh extension, right? So let's check out what kind of permissions it has. So since it actually doesn't have anything in it, I just created it. It's going to show the size being 0, obviously, right? So blocks, access. So this thing is able to do almost anything, right? That's just by looking at the number 744. And that's another thing too, is that you can actually give file permissions just based off the numbers. And let's see if we can find that real quick. Forgive my slow ass fucking internet. So let's see. File permissions based on numbers. Let's see what pops up. All right, let's see. We're getting some stuff here. Let's check out the images. Maybe there's like a reference or something. Mm, I don't see anything yet here. Let me see. Nah. Oh, this could be it. 7 plus 4. Let's see if we maybe find something around here. Let's see. Hmm. So it looks like it's using octal, right? So the number is being represented by the octal system. So anyway, I don't want to slow this video down anymore. So you actually you're gonna have to look that up on yourself, to be honest with you guys. So anyway, let's see. Close this down. So what I'm gonna do is that for the files, this one right here, cool file, I'm gonna lock it down where it's pretty much useless for anybody to use, right? So let me do this, and then we're gonna do this one right here. So this first one, the 755, Shmod 755, and then the file name will give the read write permission. In other words, any user can modify the file as they please. They can delete it, et cetera, right? So the second one kind of gives the same permissions, but not as much. As you can see, it doesn't have that much. So maybe this one limits the users, I would say. And then down here, I'd say it looks like it's giving the root user the ability to delete the file and write on it, right? And then this one, the mod 000 locks that file. So in other words, nobody's gonna be able to do anything to it. You're not gonna be able to modify the file, the contents, and or delete it. So let's do that. Mod 0000, and we're gonna do that to cool file. So txt, as you see there, boom, right? So now let's check it out. So as you see up there, the file has a bunch of permissions, right? Cool file, as you see here. Now let's check this out. Now, as you can see, it has none. So I'm literally not going to be able to do anything to the file. So let's go to the file itself. Playground. And then as you can see here, right? I can't open it. As you can see, I can't delete it if I wanted to. Move to trash, as you can see, right? So I technically can't do anything to it. It's a locked file, and that's how you change permissions to that file using this command chmod 000 cool file. So now what we're gonna do is that we're gonna give it all the permissions, right? So now it's gonna be 755, as you see over here to our left. We're gonna give it all the permissions. So let's press enter. And now let's go back to our folder. As you can see here, right? I can open it now. I can delete it. Well, I could delete it. I could just toss it here and it'll delete. So as you can see, that's why file permissions are very important, especially when it comes to working with especially in your operating system, right? Because you get to give the computer the different, hold on, let me open up this file things here. So as you can see, you're able to give files permission and they're able to do certain things that you want them to do, right? Or you don't want them to do. So here, the Shmod version up here, this one's very useful for what I was explaining earlier for the .sh files. So again, you download something for the internet like a tool, and as soon as you try running it, and you can try running it like this, file, so cool file .sh, and then you press enter, right? Boom. And then it'll say permission denied. Before you run it, what you want to do is you want to choose the permissions to read, write, everything, right? So you're gonna do something like this: chmod, and then u plus x, and then bang, like that, right? And then you press enter. So now you're giving the permissions to the file to do anything you want, and then you can run it. Cool file.sh, and then you press enter, bang, right? Then you're able to make it do whatever you want it to do. So let's see. So as you see here, remove right from group. I'm assuming this takes away the regular user's uh, permission to actually write or modify the file. And then down here, chmod O equals R set read only for others. So in other words, as a root user, I would only give the file the permission to be read. So in other words, regular users can only read the contents of the file. They won't be able to modify it, right? So down here, as you can see, set full permissions for users, RX for group, R for others. So this one right here obviously gives permissions to the file to do everything. Not only the files, but the users as well. Any user, the regular user, as I showed you guys earlier, which was Kali, they're able to modify the contents of the file. So that's pretty cool. And then the numeric side using the octal system, we already went through that as well. You're gonna have to Google that a little bit more of that on your own. And then the shown change file ownership, shown username, and then the file. So I'm assuming this one is used to change the user who could use it or the owner of the file. That's interesting. So as you see here, this would be the owner of the file, right? So let's do this. Since we know that it's Kali, the regular user, let's do this. Shown, and then we're gonna do Kali, and then we're gonna go to who file. Let's see, ls. Again, now we change the owner of the file. So as you can see up here, before it was the root user, so now it's the regular user, right? So that's how you change the file ownership. So as you see down here, change shown username and the group name, change owner and group, and then the bottom, change group only, and then the bottom is default permissions UMass, show current UMass value, set default permissions file 644, and dire 755. Again, that's an octal system. So let's do that right now. UMass. And then let's do the file. I think you do it by file name. Nope. So let's see this then. UMask. I see 25. I mean 022. We're gonna have to Google what that even does. Let's see. What is UMask in Linux? In Linux, Usemax controls the default file and directory permissions when they are created. It acts as a mask subtracted from the default permissions to determine the file permissions of new files and directories. Essentially, UMask determines which permission are not granted by default. And obviously we got 022. Let's see what it gives us. In Linux, Usemax sets this default permission only created files and directories transfer write groups and other users while allowing read and execute access. This means when you create a new file, it would have a permissions of 644, read and write for owner, read only for group, and others. For directories of the file will be 755, read. All right, I mean, hopefully you understood that. I mean, as we know, computers are a pain in the fucking ass. So if you have issues with that, I mean, you might want to ask ChatGTP. It might help you out a little bit more. So let's see. Set user ID run as file owner. Chmod user plus s file. Set user ID. Chmod user ID. Set set gid run with group privileges. So you can see this is extra stuff, right? So again, you're gonna have to Google some of this stuff to learn to do it yourselves. Recursive changes, chmod, R755, and then the directory of the file. So this one changes the pretty much the permissions of everything in the directory. That's interesting. Recursively set permissions, shown R user, and then group, and then the path as well. Hmm. All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and watch my other previous videos. And again, this is a command line series, so I'm actually going to keep going and learning as much of every category as I can. Again, there's different categories in the command line. There's the networking side, there's the process management side, there's the permission side as we went through today. So there's a bunch of categories that I'm eager to teach you guys how to use, all right? All right, guys, thank you.